Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeVias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome Hari Ravichandran to the Reboot Chronicles. He is the founder and CEO of Aura, a proactive platform dedicated to creating a safer internet. Easier said than done, of course. The company has been on a roll as of late and just invested in kiddos, which we'll talk about. Hari founded also Endurance International, which he built into a multi-billion-dollar valuation company with about 3,500 employees, and combined with Web.com to form Newfold Digital. And he's also founder of Jump Ventures, his family office, which invests in bringing disruptive deals to market and scale. He's also the author of a new book, which is why I called him to be on the program, called Intelligent Safety. Hari was named also E&Y's Entrepreneur of the Year and many other awards, of course, but also one of the most powerful CEOs under 40 by Forbes. That's always a good thing to have. Of course, Hari, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So much to talk about. I've spent a lot of time in cybersecurity, not so much lately, and it seems like if I'm not in it for 6 months, everything goes crazy and keeps changing. So you definitely picked a dynamic space we'll get into. But for the listeners and some readers of this podcast, my notes about what cyber theft is going on in America, it's still one of our fastest growing crimes. 60% of America is reporting to be a victim of digital crime. 1 in 10 people become identity theft victims annually, which is really high, I think, and including a million children. Is that right?
Exactly right. Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, and consumers lost about 10 billion. It's probably higher than that now in 2020, right up from like 7 billion. Financial losses online are surpassing that as surpassing home theft. So. Yeah, all those TV commercials for protecting your home, people, you need to pay attention to this. So I'm not sure where to start with you. I'd love to talk about the company, but maybe we could just kick off talking about the book. I actually read it last night and got some great stuff in here, even for people like me who know a little bit about the space. And I love how you call it, how to protect your connected family, because that to me seems like those of you that have kids, even if some of you have older kids like me and you're still paying for their cell phones. I'm not sure why that happened, but they're almost like the weakest link. When I was reading the book, I'm like, yeah, it's the children. So yeah, I'd love to hear about, why did you write this and how's it going to help people?
Yeah, I mean, the book is really about empowering families. That's at the core of it. Because cyber criminals have gotten a lot more sophisticated. So the more knowledge that families can have in terms of kind of what's going on out there, how to keep themselves safe, especially with the new influx of AI, there's a whole new wave of crime. And how do you sort of leverage tips, tools, tricks to make sure your family's safe? And as you said, kids and elders, I mean, they tend to be the most vulnerable population within families. Whether it's your kid having a secret life, whether as a teenager, safeguarding your family finances, making sure your aging parents are not victims to scam, identifying some of these things and helping folks understand what to do about it. So I really wanted to create a guide, that could help families with a lot of knowledge and try to get ahead of the bad guys as much as possible. I did have some personal affinity to this because I actually went through an identity theft incident back in 2014, and it is a real pain to go back and remediate and fix some of the damage that happened from that. So would definitely love for my experience to serve as a warning tale to help folks not to fall victim to that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, unlike physical crimes where the cops show up and there's a process, there's a judge, this is a very gray area still. After all these years, you think there'd be a better process. I like the one line you got in here about turning the tables on cyber criminals, keep your loved ones safe. That all sounds good. Is AI going to make that easier and better? Just forgetting the dangers of AI for a second. Is there actually a way for AI to help us be more safe?
It's really interesting because it is a two-sided sword. I mean,
Yeah.
the tools that we have available to us as people that are trying to prevent crime, the criminals also have access to some of those tools as well. I mean, so I think in general, AI for good and AI to be able to identify scams and patterns, et cetera, is a pretty powerful tool, but not to be taken lightly that some of those same technology core is available to bad people as well. And so it's a continuous sort of cat and mouse game. You have to make sure that you're trying to stay ahead of it. And at a minimum, if you're not using AI, you're falling behind the victims. Ideally, you'd not like that to happen, and ideally, you'd like to be in a situation where you're well ahead of where the victims are in terms of their tech curve.
So what should I be doing with AI from my personal cybersecurity perspective?
I think there's a lot of new companies like my company Aura, for example, where we leverage a lot of these tools on the back end
Yep.
to be able to identify scams that are happening, able to identify even sort of AI generated scams as well. And there's a whole wave of people kind of building on top of modern stacks and on top of modern AI technology. So getting smart on that, getting to understand sort of which of these things are relevant to your life and family, and which of these things you can take like an active role in, because most people just feel like, hey, this seems so much beyond
Yeah.
my technical ability, and I'm going to do nothing about it. To change from that to saying, okay, I want to take control of my safety for me and my family online is pretty critical.
Yeah, I'm just staring here at the book, which so I'm off camera a little bit for those of you watching. So as you get to the end of the book, you give out some real good specificity about, hey, here's what you should do. Everything from passwords to
Yep.
to all kinds of tricks. And what are your top 3 things there that you make sure?
I mean, yes.
It's like they're not going to do all 10. I don't know that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say top 3 weak passwords or reusing passwords over and over again. That tends to be, believe it or not, still a very, very high
Yeah, one of the things you
threat vector.
recommended there was, without getting too geeky, was like, hey, let the password generator generate a password, which is
Exactly.
that's the safest.
And store
Nobody
it.
can remember what that is. They have to go write it down somewhere or something.
No, because I think the password generator will generate it and you can store it. And so if you're sort of on your device, you can make sure that you don't have to remember it. You click a button and it basically kind of fills the password.
Yep.
So in some ways, that's pretty beneficial. I'd say 2FA. People hate it because when they try to log in, you have to go back and authenticate yourself again,
Yeah.
whether it's MFA or 2FA. That I think is a pretty critical way to kind of avoid issues. And then, from a financial standpoint, make sure you're checking your credit, make sure you're checking your bank statements, even off cycle, especially if you get a breach notification where somebody said, hey, you were at the store got breached, your information's out there. You probably want to be extra vigilant to make sure that there is nothing off kilter with their credit or with bank transactions. And it's free. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything, so might as well go stay on top of it.
Yeah, we're not going to go into credit score stuff, but I mean, even checking your credit score changes your credit score. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I think there's sort of the concept of a hard inquiry and a soft inquiry. So the soft inquiry doesn't, and the hard does.
Yeah.
So most of the services online will do a soft inquiry,
Yeah.
and so that will not affect your score as much. But yes, historically there have been times where that wasn't the case, and you go look at it and you made your own score worse. So that was never a good incentive.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great book. It's available everywhere, folks, and obviously it comes out of your passion for your current company. You've done a few companies like me, and so let's talk about the mission. And it's like you're taking this proactive approach versus reactive. And now that people, since AI is like all the rage, and even though people like you and I have been working in it for years, they understand proactive versus reactive now. And how has it set you apart from competitors? Like everything from LifeLock to you name it. Everyone in the industry that's kind of trying to help people. Is it all digital crime, for instance, and digital protection?
I think so. Historically, a lot of companies have taken a much more point solution approach, where it's basically, hey, we're going to, remedy viruses on your computer, or we're going to monitor your transactions. So like one or two or three of these things. But the security footprint of a family is much wider than that.
Yes.
It's basically, there's things like parental controls. You want to make sure your kid is safe, scams that are happening via telephone or text messages. There's a whole gamut of these things. So the way we've approached it is to make it an all-in-one solution across all threat vectors and really focus on the proactive part, where if we can identify potential risks for the family, we will either make recommendations or try to make it easy for them to like lock their credit, for example. Why wait until after something negative happens to your credit? If we know there's some risk, let's do it ahead of time. Same thing with proactively changing passwords.
Right.
And then leveraging AI, for example, we've rolled out recently something called a call assistant, where when there's a call that comes inbound, we can both identify if it's a call that is spam or has scam intent based on the words that people are saying. And with that, we can basically recommend to the user to either pick it up, not pick up the call. If they don't want to pick it up, we can transcribe the voicemail and send it back to the user, et cetera, as well. So those are sort of some examples of getting out in front of the problem versus waiting till after it
Yeah, I
happens.
love that proactive. I mean, AT&T is doing that now. It's telling me different categories that it puts numbers in, probably based on database about the numbers. What are you adding to that?
So what we actually do is both do the number lookups, meaning it's a known number in your contact book or not. Is it numbers that are being recycled, et cetera, from databases?
Right.
But we also listen to the call that's actually happening, and we do sentiment analysis of the call, and we do like a inflection of words and what kind of words the person on the other side is using, and we use all that information to then triangulate and make it be much more dynamic because the list that we use for bad phone numbers, et cetera, they tend to get stale pretty often.
Yeah.
And there's new numbers that get added to that. So you want to get real time information about whether a particular call has a scam intent. And the other nice thing that we're rolling out now is if there's a scam intent, let's say it's a senior, like my mom gets a call, it's got some scam intent, and she doesn't know what to do with it. She can forward the call off to me and just say, "Hey, I'm going to delegate this to my son." I can pick it up and I can say, "Okay, is this real or not?" And kind of make some decisions on our behalf. So we try to kind of make it work well for the family dynamics as well.
Yeah. We just had our corporate governance conference at Kellogg, and so we had CEO of CrowdStrike, as usually comes and talks.
George, yeah,
Yeah,
George,
the,
yeah.
the stuff that they tell the audience just literally scare. It's like scaring your parents, really. And
I mean, it's insane. I mean, they deal with threats at a whole nother level
yeah,
with nation states and
they're at the
people
nation
don't. Yeah,
state,
so
corporate, multinational
yeah,
corporation. A little different from you, trying to protect people.
yeah.
What else about your? You've got a bunch of different subsidiaries like Pango, and you just bought Kiddas. What is that all about?
Yeah, Kiddas we made an investment in. Pango basically is a sort of a portion of our business that focuses on VPN primarily, and so an Aura is sort of our all-in-one product. Kiddas we actually made an investment in because they are very innovative in terms of finding threats inside gaming systems, which is a big problem for families and kids.
Massive.
If you're on PC games, are your kids being bullied, or are there sort of negative experiences they're having? Are they bullying other people, et cetera? So you want to be able to identify these things and get information back to the family. And so they do a great job with that. So we decided to make an investment in that and also become a distribution partner for them.
Yeah, sounds smart. Does it? I used to be the CEO of a games company, so the first thing
So you got it,
the
yeah.
first thing the kids are going to ask is this going to wreck my latency? Is this going to slow down? Is this slowing down my client? What's going on here?
No, that's part of why we love it because it's super low latency. It doesn't actually affect your game playing experience at all.
Smart. Yeah. What? So when you look at your product roadmap, where you're going, what's the biggest? Let's just start with that. Where's the company going to be in a few years? And then I want to follow up with some reboot stories.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of think of where we are now. We kind of think about our sort of our product North Star to be intelligent safety for families. Like our first version of the product was very much focused on safety. The second version of the product was very much focused on safety for families, which is sort of where we're at in our current roadmap. The next wave that's kind of happening second half of this year, going into next year, is a lot more intelligent features. So, like we've been investing in AI for about 2 years now. We've built up a lot of underpinning and sort of a very robust back end. Being able to leverage that to kind of drive a whole lot more intelligent features inside the product that make it very much more proactive than even it is today is sort of the next wave of stuff. And so, for the next kind of year plus, we'll go through that, and then we'll start to drive newer experiences for people. Whether it's sort of if you're a senior, your experience might want to be a little bit different than if you're a child versus if you are sort of a small business, et cetera. So kind of driving different experiences of the product across multiple different segments of users.
And cybercrime surpassing burglaries. I'm not sure. I mean, that's not a big surprise. But does your product also tie into? Hey, you also have a home security system, and because people want less software to manage more things in their lives. Are you thinking about physical at all?
We are. I mean, we're thinking about IoT sort of in a broad
Yeah.
way, which is basically all of the devices in your home. I mean, a typical user, a typical household has between 25 to 30 connected devices,
Yeah.
and that ranges anywhere from like your baby cams in your home to Nests and Rings, and
Holding up my phone to show you all the apps. It's ridiculous. There's
it's nuts.
there's
Yeah,
6 of them just for the house. I'm like, come on, somebody.
yeah. And so what we're hoping to do is basically if we can get all of the information from many of those also integrated inside our product, it could drive a really good experience for our customers. We're in the middle of development there. We're not there yet, but we're hoping to get a beta version of the IoT features out the door by early next year, basically.
Yeah, smart. When you look at predictive analytics versus prescriptive, it's like telling me what's going to happen or actually just doing something about it. Do you see that as a big trend as well, where it's like, hey, we're just going to fix things for you and we'll let you know about it if you want to undo it?
Yeah, yeah. We do we think about it two ways, right? One is basically getting the insight, and the second is the automation piece of it. But that's a huge trend, and for all the talk about AI,
Yeah.
really the algorithms and the learning part of the AI is probably 10-20% of the effort. Like 80% of the effort that nobody really talks about is in the data, right? And so how do you set up your data pipeline? How is the data layout set up? Can you access things within your data set in a fast, low latency kind of way? So doing that part right will make the predictive analytics a whole lot more easy because you can access things much more easily. And that's where we kind of have an advantage where we are looking at a lot of things within a family, not just one vertical set of data, basically. So we get a lot of information. So we spend a lot of time on the data pipeline, getting the data layout right, and then the intelligence features on top of it. So once you get that, you can almost think of that as your brain for your family that's saying, okay, well, here's what this family's doing. Here's the different elements of the family. Here's where all the risks are. And now, when you're armed with that information, you can say, well, what do we do about it? So then you start thinking about stuff like, okay, we probably want to lock the credit for this family. We want to set up intelligent thresholds for transactions where they see anomalous transactions. We can alert them to that. Oh, the child in the family seems to have some patterns online that seem a little bit risky. So kind of setting up some guardrails around it. So that's the automation part of it is how do we do those things on behalf of the family to make their life a little bit easier. So
Yeah, for instance, in the book, you mentioned something that I've been doing for years, which is just automatic alerts anytime there's a charge on your credit card. Unfortunately,
yeah,
one of the Amex cards, it has to be over $10, which is stupid because that's when people are testing your card. But
yeah.
anyway, Visa starts with pennies, so I do 1 cent. But that's something that they'll just still have to do themselves because sometimes it's a pain.
Well, no, you don't.
Are you going to be
We
able
actually
to?
just
Can you automate that with your system or?
yeah, we just rolled out this feature. It's called anomalous transaction detection. So once you set it up, if you connect your Amex card to the Aura product,
Yeah.
we are continuously looking to see. So, like for example, in your household, a $10 charge at Starbucks might be very common. But if we see something which is like a $500 charge at Starbucks, that's odd, right? So
Right.
it will look for anomalous patterns within the household.
$2,000 of gift cards. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, somebody's probably harvesting information that they ought not to. So what we tend to do is really create the security model on a per family basis. And if something is an outlier for that family, then coming back to them with that information, which is what the anomaly transaction detection does. And that's another example of an AI set of features that we're using for good there. Because without the right data layout and the right model, it would be very hard to solve the problem in a way that's actually useful for families.
Yeah, moms really struggle with their kids, especially daughters, being on Instagram, TikTok, and who the heck knows what else.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're not on Facebook. But how do you help that? Because it's
I will tell you, like I
it's
have
not going well, and there's a big market there.
with my own kids, I see it because I have them use our product,
Yeah.
and you can kind of see what are the different things that they're doing and what new apps they're downloading, etc. But on the social media side, it's Instagram, it's TikTok, kind of very popular. On the app side, interestingly, we see a lot of YouTube and Discord.
Yeah.
Have gotten to be very, very popular apps
Yes.
for messaging, etc. as well. So we are rolling out features now which will inform families about pattern changes for their kids. So today, what you can do is you can set limits and you can say, hey, if they're going over a certain limit, you can stop them from being able to use stuff. You can in fact go turn off their internet from your phone if it's over a certain limit, which is nuclear. The kids hate that,
Yeah,
obviously,
there's
but
a lot of programs do that, right? That's
so and some of it is available on your phone itself. But here, what we end up doing is also tabulating all the apps they're using, how much time they're on a particular app, and the next wave of features that are coming out now will say, okay, we're seeing that your child is using this app that wasn't there last week, and now it's here, and now they're using it quite a bit. So that's an off kilter pattern, right? And so we'll check that against the network to see if that's part of some bigger scam. So we can then identify the scam and send it back to the family. So using some of this data to then drive intelligent insights, which, like I was saying, was the intelligent part of the intelligent safety for families, basically.
yeah, and rather than giving you a credit card, authorizing microtransactions through your portal of your credit card, but then they don't have it anymore. Things like that.
Exactly right.
I'm speaking from experience. I used to give my credit card to the kids. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of that, should people? Google is really good about storing your passwords and your credit
Yep.
cards, and I trust
Yep.
them more than Facebook. It's just
Yep.
probably because I never had to give Facebook a credit card. Do you recommend that as a tool?
Yes. I mean, it's Google. I mean, they have amazing a focus on security, technology on the back end, et cetera. I mean, they're
They
obviously
do two-factor authentication too, I think, and
they
all the
do.
security stuff. But it's
Yeah, and
like,
they're very, very.
I'm getting geeky here. I'm sorry, but for those listening, it's like, they automatically will store all your passwords. You can go to a page and look at them all. It's like the only place where you might have them all. Some people do it. Some say, no, I wouldn't do that. I write all mine down on a piece of paper and it's in my desk. Like,
I would definitely recommend using the online tool more than a piece of paper for sure.
Yeah, and don't keep them on your phone. But
on a notepad.
However, on your phone, on your phone, though, if someone gets your phone and they somehow get through the password, then if everything's automatically stored, because that's what everyone's used to. I open my app, whether it's United Airlines for a $2,000 ticket or Starbucks, like I'm not entering anything. Actually, United makes you enter if you're using a credit card, but many of them don't. So how do you get around that? Because physical theft of the phone is more valuable than breaking into your house.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you think about it, somebody gets into your house, people don't keep cash around anymore. Like, what are they actually going to steal, right? I mean, there's not that much physically.
Yeah, please
They get into
take my TV. I want
yeah.
I want a new one anyway.
Yeah, well, they get into your phone. I mean, they can move money. They can, get into your personal life, and everything is on your devices anymore. So, I think some of the core services that come on phones,
Yeah,
where you can remotely just purge them and get rid of them if it ends up getting stolen, et cetera, is really good. But yet again, this is why MFA or 2FA ends up becoming very valuable, because if they get in, then you want to make sure that you have a different device or a different email address where you're doing the authentication that's not accessible on the phone. So now, even if your phone's stolen, they don't have access to that other email that you don't have preloaded inside your phone that you can log into and see if they're trying to get in through 2FA as well.
So what's been the toughest reboot you've gone through here? Hopefully.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There's too many. We're going to prioritize them, obviously, and it could be with Aura, it could be with endurance, but what can we learn from your mistakes? Is what we'd like to say.
I can I can probably go on for hours. I've made a lot of mistakes, and so I would say from a business standpoint, my learning between endurance to then starting Aura, I had the good fortune of having about 6 months off between one to the other, basically, or 7 months. So I had a lot of time to go.
Extremely important. Yes.
Yeah, so I had some time to think about a long journey I'd had with my previous company, and what did we do well, what did we sort of fail at, and it came down to a few things for me. Some are very specific to the business, but our last business, we did not spend a whole lot of time building either a brand or staying super doggedly focused on product in the later years. So we did a lot of things well. We got a good scale. That business went from $0 when I started it to $1.2 billion in revenue. So we did a lot of things right. But product towards the later years, we probably were not as tight as we should have been. and building out a user-facing brand we had not invested behind.
Yep.
Now, the third one I would say is much more of a soft skill where in the first go around, I'd really built the company and the executive team as sort of an extension of myself in some ways, which is, hey, I like doing this stuff, or I don't have time to do this stuff. I think I need to hire somebody to help me do that, right? Versus now, when we started building Aura, like I spend a lot of time with our executive team getting them to own the problem, right? I mean, I think that the solution is like 70% in getting the team to own the problem. Like if we have a growth problem, that shouldn't be just my problem. That's our problem as a management team. So we spend a lot of time, making sure that people are internalizing the problem and building a culture where everybody has ownership of the problem. So we all feel motivated to try to come up with a solution.
Exactly.
Uh, so that's been a big learning for me over the years, I would say.
I love that. And based on everything you've been through, and I've run B2B as well as consumer companies, and we all know which one cost more to get going. How did you
Yes, it
just,
does.
I mean, the consumer side is just huge investment in terms of,
Yeah.
burn and churn and getting subscribers. So what's the going forward? I guess, how did you choose, consumer over B2B? Because it's mostly consumer based modeling, right?
Yeah, it was interesting because when you look at the landscape of enterprise security companies, there are like 6,500 companies that
Too
are all
many.
vying
Exactly.
for, yeah, they're all vying for sort of the enterprise dollars.
Yeah,
The problem space is getting smaller and smaller because a lot of people are trying to expand their product into other areas in the enterprise,
exactly.
and they're all very, very well funded. Now, on the other side, the consumer market crime has gotten a lot more sophisticated. Where like 10 years ago, as you probably remember, somebody hacked into your computer, it was a script kiddie that was going to go brag about it to their buddies, basically, right?
Yeah,
And now it's a criminal enterprise. So there's just a lot more crime happening. The TAM is unlimited in the way I see it, which is basically, there's 7 billion people plus. There are 4.5 billion connected people. Every one of them has this problem. So it's a huge opportunity. Now, the negative side of it is obviously, unless you know how to get the go-to-market motions right, it can end up being very, very expensive. Now, the good news is the last company, we were very focused on marketing to bring small business into the door, and a lot of SMBs, especially the smaller ones, behave a lot like a prosumer.
yep.
So we'd had a lot of good experience with marketing strategies there. So we thought, okay, well, we could probably apply many of those things here. And we, as time went on, with COVID, we did get some tailwind there because a lot more people were using stuff online. So a lot more crime started happening as well. So it ended up becoming a good bet because it just seemed like, to me, it seemed like, look, cybersecurity is this like super, very hairy problem that isn't getting easier. It's going to get worse over 10 years. So it seemed like a good bet. And so the only real risk is the one you're talking about, which is, can you aggregate consumers at a reasonable cost without burning lots and lots and lots and lots of money in the process? So
Yeah, the way I look at that is we talk about a lot on the program and at Kellogg and advising companies. It's the BBB strategy. What are you going to build? What are you going to buy? So you've been buying and investing in things. Obviously, built your own platform, and then what can you borrow? Partnering and getting strategic partners. You're distributing other
100%.
other people's, and because you're right, people want to buy less products. Obviously, customers do, big corporates,
Yep.
but they want to buy. They'd love to consolidate everything, like on my phone. So yeah, good market. Just I think there's a need for it's always a need for speed, but a need for creatively getting to market in a way that you're not doing it all by yourself. And how do you think about
Exactly.
that the whole borrowing and partnering thing?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's I've thought about this a lot over the years and sort of tried obviously a lot of different strategies. If it's core to your business, and it may be whatever it is, right? I mean, if it's core to your growth, if it's core to the company and the value prop that you're offering to your customer,
Yeah,
you definitely want to build it and own it. If it's basically something that's a bit more adjacent, like for us, like our data platform, the AI capability set, the deep integration layers, like those are all critical to the experience we drive to our customers. So we have to own that. Uh, Now, on the buy part of it, the calculus ends up becoming much more about time for us anyway, which is, hey, here's a company that's already kind of made 2 or 3 years worth of runway or 5 years worth of runway building this thing. And we really need that in our roadmap.
right.
And it's going to take us 2 years to go build it. Can we potentially shave some time off? Is sort of the buy calculus. And then the partner piece is, hey, if it's go to market stuff, anybody that has leverage, meaning, hey, there's somebody that can resell our product, but getting one partner opens up 10,000 more potential customers or something like that, that ends up becoming a great partnership opportunity. But on the product side, if it's not something that's core to your customer experience, you generally kind of want to go partner to go try it out before investing a lot of dollars, because
Yep.
like a lot of times you fall in love with an idea. You're like, oh, that's going to be the next great thing. And okay, everybody, let's go build that. And then, and then it may or may not be the next great thing. So there,
Yeah.
you might be able to do a lot more by testing with the partner that's already in that space.
Right. I always ask my CTO, when you say it'll be ready third quarter, you mean this year, right? Like, yeah, right. Oh, listen, we could talk for hours. Hari, I want to thank you for joining us. Any words of wisdom for aspiring entrepreneurs that want to kind of grow up and be like you and be a CEO, even if they're your age?
I know. The biggest thing I've learned over these years is bet on yourself. I think that people tend
Yeah.
to kind of get in their own way. Like when you actually get into something, you're always capable of doing a lot more than you think. It's just taking that step is really difficult. Whether it's starting a business, whether it's sort of a career direction, any of those things, we just sort of spend a lot of cycles thinking about all the things that could go wrong, and being fearful of stuff. But generally, taking a bet on yourself is always good. And if you're an entrepreneur, wait as long as you can to raise money, because I'm yet to meet an entrepreneur with a successful business that says, "I wish I'd owned less of my business." Everybody wishes they would have owned more.
Hmm.
So the longer you wait, the more of your business you're going to end up owning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Great. You've been listening to Hari Ravichandran, and he is the CEO of Aura, and also just wrote a really cool new book called Intelligent Safety for Families. It's amazing. Pick it up anywhere. And I want to thank you for joining us today. This is Dean Tobias with the Reboot Chronicles, and we will see you soon.